3 out of 3, we can go first in the final. Although I have to say that this deck is also quite good on the draw, I found out, simply because of Walking Atlas, but let's not mulligan this hand. It's kind of slow, but the hands in which we don't draw Walking Atlas tend to be that way. And on the play we can actually afford to not have a 2-drop. On the draw it's somewhat more dangerous. This looks like the aggressive vampire deck that is a thing in this format. And we are just going to have to hope to block as good as possible here. So the first decision is what we play, and I think it's a pretty easy Recluse here. The Pilgrim's Eye isn't going to be better against both of his creatures, and it's very unlikely that we are going to need it for the kicker. So there is the Surakar Marauder, which has landfall and then gains Intimidate. Our opponent might also be holding back lands here for exactly that reason. Now, our plan is to just raise back with Timomo Larva and maybe even some more creatures. Gatekeeper is very unfortunate, but that just means we have to sacrifice the Recluse. The Larva is too important to get the damage in here, and we are very far from dying. So I'm just going to drop the 4/4, it blocks the best. And we could hold back the Larva, but it isn't even a good blocker and it deals 7 on attack. So I feel like that's what we have to do. And then we have to hope that the Baloth isn't killed this turn. Don't know what this card does. +2/+0, and it can destroy equipments. Okay. So probably equipping the Marauder or something else to force my Baloth to block. Both would be reasonable lines. But given how good our hand is, we can actually just afford to do so. Okay, he's even more aggressive than that. So we get to block the Scrabbler here. Now, I think he's just dead if we have another forest. Let's calculate this. This is 6 damage and this is 5 damage, so he's down to 2. So if we get a forest with Pilgrim's Eye, I think he's just dead. It's a very reckless attack. Didn't expect that. But this is how fast the format is, for your information. And that did it. Timomo Larva going all the way basically. And I'm very happy that we have these 1/1 artifacts to block the Marauder. Gatekeeper card we have to keep in mind. Other than that, we haven't seen enough to really tell what's going on. So I think leaving all these blue cards out of there is exactly what we want to be doing. I could see a reasoning for Paralyzing Grasp once again, because of the evasive creatures he has, and we also saw an equipment, so that is kind of relevant there. Question is what we can take out. Probably the Terastodon. It might have been a mistake to play this in the first place, but yeah, let's just do without that. Now we are going to play Beyond the Draw, and Skyruin Drake is another card that we could consider. I think that the Archer is too bad to actually play. I kind of like Lethargy Trap, to be honest. So I think dropping a Forest and playing the Trap is a nice addition. And then we almost want the Skyruin Drake as well. It could be better than the Gorger, simply because it costs 1 mana less. And our opponent is going to be very aggressive. Still want the Larva, of course. So let's see if we can make this work. The problem is we probably need another blue source, so we have even less green sources, but I guess we can try. We are going to play the full art basic, so we know if it hurt us or not. It looks like a keepable hand, even though we have the full art basic, so we might not be able to cast the Baloth, which could be a big problem. But I still like this hand. It is kind of slow though, and it's also kind of bad against Gatekeeper of Malakir. So one of the themes of this format was that the vampires get stronger when their opponents are on 10 or less. And we might see this happening faster than we want to. If he has another good drop here, we are probably toast. That's kind of late for Walking Atlas, I have to say. The thing is that we might not want to expose Leatherback Baloth to Gatekeeper of Malakir, and this turns into a 4/2, so it's actually not the end of the world. So if we drop Walking Atlas, we are certainly going to try to block the Cullblade with it, but I'm expecting it to die. So if we drop the Baloth, we are just pretty much dead against Gatekeeper. That's the main thing to consider. Which means that Pilgrim's Eye or Walking Atlas are actually the better choices. I think we have to go for Pilgrim's Eye here. Might seem risky, but just rolling over to Gatekeeper is not what I want to be doing. I'm not saying that this is a great position to be in, but it's much better than losing the Baloth to the Gatekeeper. The main problem being that now all his vampires are turned on. On the other hand, he hasn't shown us an evasive creature yet, and oh, that's cool. So he gets to see 4 of our cards, which means that we want to save the Baloth and both of the Baloths. And given that we can just show him lands all around and Seacliff isn't important, I'm just going to keep the Atlas around as well. So here, I don't even know what he's going to take. Seacliff isn't a card that should threaten him, so he might take the island because it comes into play untapped, and it's full art basic. That's interesting. Ornreef Recluse means that we can potentially go for the kill a creature plan again, and we do have enough mana to go up to 5 naturally, which is enough to drop Baloth, Atlas, and Recluse if we don't want to kick it. So I think we can just keep the Seacliff for now. And of course now we have to hope that he doesn't have another way to deal with the Baloth. Quicksand won't do it though. We kind of want the Walking Atlas in play now, given that we have Turn Timber Grove and Soaring Seacliff. But getting another 4/4 into play is very important if he has anything, so I'm going to take it slow now. We do know that there is some evasive cards he can draw, but we could have the potential to flood him out of this game. He did kill our Baloth with Feast of Blood, gaining 2 life. We are forced to block to protect our life total. That's a pretty bad card. What a bummer. Now we can drop the Recluse, and then we don't have the option of killing something with Seacliff anymore and take less damage, or we drop Walking Atlas and Turn Timber Grove, and then we take 2 damage, which is not a problem at all. It does mean we have to wait on the trap, but if he has anything great, then it's going to be very good to have all these cards. A third option is to just go down to 6 next turn and then have the growth in play. But I think that's too risky. Actually, we can't do that. I think that might also be too greedy what I'm doing here, but we do have an option to block the pulse tracker. So taking 2, I think, is a trade-off we are willing to take. And I'm actually hoping that if he has a good creature, that he has it now, so that we can get rid of it with our sweet combo. And that didn't work out so well, because their Bloodhusk Ritualist was kicked 3 times. So our whole plan is basically gone. We don't have blue mana, we don't have the Recluse, and we don't have the Lethargy Trap, which wasn't as good anyway, but now we basically need to top deck, and it can't be a blue card. Well, it's worse, but it's still fine, I guess. We also do have the Terra Stomper, which we can draw. So things aren't too bad. Hey. Turning things around. Potentially. The second tracker probably forces me to stay back with the Larva until I draw another creature, but Baloth Cage Trap is pretty spicy, I think. Oh wait, I can't actually attack, because Quicksand just kills my Larva. So I'm going to hold back, which means that the Cage Trap is probably not ambushing anything, but he might still attack with everything. That's Heartstabber Mosquito. When it's kicked, he just destroys a creature. It's kind of bad because it also means that we don't have a flying blocker anymore. And we've used up both of our spiders, so let's see, we go down to 4. And we can block 2 of these, but then we go down to 3, which is basically 2, or we can just go down to 2 by blocking that one. And I don't know if we have any card to draw to get us out of this. It's actually kind of interesting to see. Local deck. So for those that don't know, you can always go to your tournament decks, and the latest deck in there is the deck you just drafted. So what you can do is just to look what kind of outs you have. Glazing Gladeheart is not an out because we don't have any lands left, so I think we are just out of luck here. Not really anything we can draw. Let's see if Pilgrim's Eye... Yeah, Pilgrim's Eye is just a chump blocker, and then we die into the turn after. And the cards we boarded in were meant to be against ground creatures. Paralyzing Grasp, Lethargy Trap aren't going to cut it, so I think we are drawing dead here, and we don't need to show him the Cage Trap. We can just concede here rather. Yeah, there's no way we are getting there. Yeah, that was unfortunate. The Mosquito, maybe we should have attacked with the Larva, and then he might have used the Quicksand, but that's really difficult to say. The Trap still sounds like it's an okay card, even though it's not amazing. And I like the other cards as well. The Zendikon could make an appearance. It is a 2/2 flyer, and when it dies, then we get back the land. So it's just a good blocker in the early game. And it can also help against cards like the Mosquito that just killed us. So, question is what we can afford to cut, basically. I don't see that many cards. The Figment is pretty bad, but early creatures are very important in this matchup, even if they are just 2 mana 1/1s. On the other hand, I guess that holds for Vin Zendikon as well. If we can get a 2/2 flyer, then his creatures aren't going to be attacking us as quickly. So on the play, let's try the Zendikon rather than the Paralyzing Grasp. I think that's a reasonable change, and now hopefully we can draw some Walking Atlas, Glazing Gladeheart combinations. Our curve is also reasonably low, so that 18 lands should be enough. Let's go first. And that hand is not keepable. With the Walking Atlas it would be insane. Without one, don't think we can keep a hand that just starts on turn 5. And here we have Vin Zendikon, but we need quite a lot of lands to get going. I think we still keep this. I don't see us drawing into a better hand on 5. Might be wrong, but we do get to do something, and if we draw a forest, we actually have the shot of cage trapping him. We do know that he has some artifacts, and if we don't, then, well, we aren't doing much, of course, but we are not completely out of the game. Hopefully we can draw into 2 lands rather quickly. He does play an artifact, so if we had top deck the forest, then we would have a 4/4 in play now. We got back the island because that's what the Zendikons do. I thought that protecting us from the early damage is more important, and it's going to be difficult either way. So if he doesn't have a removal spell for the Atlas, we might actually be able to block again. But the card that has made the most trouble is the Gatekeeper. So if he has that again, then kind of bad as well. Yeah, that's kind of a nice touch. Smoldering Spires for our Walking Atlas. We are pretty far behind here, of course. Need to draw a land, and then things might become a bit better. So that's a 2/2 Swamp Walker. And that's a land. It's unlikely that our opponent is going to play a creature here, so an artifact here, so it doesn't make sense to keep up the Cage Trap. Right now we have a very good block. Blocking the Cullblade with one of our creatures is definitely good, but of course he equips there. And I think we just have to double block, to be honest. Our hand is actually pretty nice, but we can't go below 10. And I'm also going to put the land into play. That's fine. That's also fine. He did have another artifact, okay. Yeah, it's very difficult to get this, to get the Cage Trap going. So we drew our fetch land, and the problem is that the Cullblade is going to take us down to 11, but 11 isn't too bad, so I'm feeling like we can probably ambush the Scrabbler with the Cage Trap, which does mean that we have to wait on our mysteries, but ambushing a creature here almost has to be worth it. Alternatively, we can drop the Sea Stalkers, take 4, and block the Scrabbler. And then he needs to have something against the Sea Stalkers. But I don't feel that we have the tempo yet to actually keep open Sea Stalkers without anything else. So I'm going to pass, even though it does cost me the Catacombs damage. So the Cullblade is going to grow. But overall, I think that's still worth it. After this turn, I shouldn't have any more problems blocking his creatures. Even if they are 6/2, then I just drop a Timbermaw Larva. And followed by the Sea Stalkers, hopefully, at some point. If he has another 2-power creature, then things aren't looking too good. I guess he's just taking all of our cards again. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Don't really know how we can beat that. I'm getting just hemmed in both games. We are facing a 4/2 and a 4/2 next turn, so the Recluse isn't really doing much. If we draw a land, though, we aren't really accomplishing anything either. Well, if he drops a flyer, if he drops the Mosquito, but if he drops the Mosquito and kills our beast, then we are basically dead anyway. So we could keep it for later, because we aren't blocking with it. And if we draw land and he... Yeah, I don't really see this going well. Discarding 4 great cards at that stage in the game probably costs us the game. Now the problem is he has the Mosquito, so we take 8. And even if we draw the land and kill the Mosquito, then we are still dead to his attacks. So yeah, that was unfortunate. It's possible that we should have gone down to 5, but taking a mulligan to 5 against this kind of deck is also kind of risky. So I think we played a fine game here. Losing in the finals is not the end of the world. So good games, and hope you enjoyed this venture into Zendikar World. Like, one of my favorite formats, and only because I basically found this very interesting deck that tries to do unfair things with Walking Atlas. I don't know if you can call it breaking the format, but if I've ever broken a format, then it's this limited format. This was Simon Götzen recording Simon Says for MTGOacademy.com. See you next time.